Rakesh Mohan, welcome. Thank you so much for talking to me. Really appreciate it, Rakesh. You're the director of at the Office of Performance Evaluation, the Idaho State Legislature, right?
Yes.
And you've been so gracious to talk with us a little bit about some issues in evaluation and other areas. Let's see where we go. So, welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, James. I'm really excited to talk about evaluation and especially to talk about my office with the Idaho legislature. And it's exciting that opportunity for me to a little bit brag about my office.
Great. Yeah, we really look forward to hearing and learning more about it. I've talked with through the years. I've talked with a lot of evaluators, a lot of external evaluators, people who do kind of similar work that I do generally, and people in data viz and just spoke with someone about reporting and I haven't talked with too many people about doing this kind of work, the kind of work you're doing. So I think very excited to share this with others. How what you do is sort of similar, different than what many of us might do in private world or consulting, external world or university, that kind of thing. So very interested. So could you talk a little bit about your professional background and how you got involved with evaluation?
So my answer might be the longest answer I'll give you for the entire conversation. There's a long story.
Yeah, I saw you have different experiences. I saw you. Yeah.
I came to this country in 1976 to do my PhD in chemistry. So 76, that's 44 years ago, to do my PhD. And I tried it for 3 years in 3 different universities, and I failed miserably. I just couldn't do it.
Right.
And then I started working as a chemist. And first I worked as a materials chemist for the Kansas Department of Transportation. Then I work as a forensic toxicologist for the Department of Health and Environment. And then also I work for as an environmental chemist there. And but so a total of 8 years I spent as a chemist, and I was getting kind of bored and restless working as a chemist there, being in a lab and seeing that I'm going nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And so in the mid 80s, I started part-time working on my master's in public administration and at the University of Kansas. And towards the end of my public administration coursework, I started looking for a job, hoping I can find a management analyst, research analyst, some kind of administrative position within sciences, hopefully in the field of environment. Tried many places, applied, and I got only one job offer. The job offer was with the Kansas legislature to work as a performance auditor. And
okay. That was so right in, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my indirect entry to evaluation.
Did you know what you were getting into?
I had no idea. I had never heard of that office. I had no idea about what they do. And I was not even going to apply for the job. Actually, my friend, I was using his computer to type my resumes. And he said, I said, oh, this is going to be a waste of time. And I think in those days, postage was 22 cents or so. I said, it will be waste of postage. And he said, no, I'll give you the postage money and you apply. And I applied and I got the job. So
and you didn't live in Boise.
No, at that time I was in Kansas. This is with the Kansas legislature.
All right.
I was working as a chemist in Kansas.
Right.
So I got the job and I liked it. I liked it. I had so much to learn because I was in sciences and I had never studied other than my public administration courses. I did not know much about social sciences and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I liked the work, and I got interested in it and worked there for 4 years. And after that, I moved as a senior performance auditor with the Louisiana legislature. And that's where, and that was 92. And that's when I discovered AEA, the American Evaluation Association. And I attended my first evaluation conference in Seattle in 92.
92. Okay.
I became AEA member at that time.
Right.
And I started liking evaluation, and I started finding the link between evaluation and performance auditing. Slightly, the focus is different.
Mm-hmm.
In performance auditing, you are more interested in compliance, looking at the compliance and efficiency. And
Right.
performance evaluation is more about learning, looking at the effectiveness. One of the big differences is that when we do auditing, performance auditing, you are basically looking at what the requirements are, what the
Mm-hmm.
laws are, what the
Right.
policies are, and whether they are being complied with or not. And if they are not, then you make recommendations accordingly. And in evaluation, you look at all that, but you also look at whether those policies and laws make any sense.
Right.
You could even challenge those policies and laws. And in auditing, generally, you don't go there.
Uh-huh.
You just, whatever it is, what they are supposed to do, that's what you look at it. So I started seeing the connection between evaluation and performance auditing. And I started finding the evaluation work was very interesting. And then I found another opportunity with the Washington State Legislature. And so I moved from Louisiana to Washington as the principal management auditor and performance auditor. It's still the context was the auditing, and not evaluation per se. But Washington Legislative Office was very much into doing evaluation work and questioning the policies and laws and analyzing all that stuff. So I enjoyed working there, and got more and more involved with AEA, and I started finding AEA to be a good organization, as well as the field of evaluation is exciting. I realized that this is the place where you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And then I got a just wonderful opportunity that I never dreamed about it, being the director of the Idaho Office of Performance Evaluations with the Idaho Legislature. Yep. And I moved here in November of 2002. I'm the only second director for the office. Office was established in '94, and I've been the director since I moved here, and I just love it. I just love this place. Love working for the legislature here. People are wonderful. Place is wonderful. So I'm here.
It sounds great. I know Boise's been growing tremendously recently too.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. How did you start to bring evaluation into your work? Like, what was that like? So there was an openness towards evaluation aside from compliance and auditing in Idaho in that office, or was it sort of, did you kind of have to gently, bring it in more as more of a focus, or like how did that work? How did you bring in some of what you were learning and getting exposed to and interested in through AEA and other resources to your work?
Yeah, I think several things I had to do. One is that I did not know when I moved here that folks were not happy with this office. And there were talks about,
tell you that.
Yeah, there were talks about shutting down the office.
Oh, wow.
And so this was the last chance they were giving.
Maybe you should rent your house, not buy it.
Yeah. But I had already bought the house. That I learned after I moved here and bought the house.
Right.
And the second, so that actually helped me. That why I wanted to know why people were not pleased with the office, what office was doing that they did not like.
Right.
And also because people were not happy, there was no relationship between our office and the environment, the evaluation environment, the authorizing environment, the legislature, the governor's office, the state agencies, the attorney general, the state treasurer. We just did not have relationships there. So I started talking to people, and I found out that office was, under the previous leadership, was very much into classical auditing, compliance, doing compliance reviews, doing, more interested in finding, in reporting findings and making recommendations to correct those deficiencies.
Right.
And the scopes of the study were very structured, very inflexible, very rigid. As a result, what happened? Legislators, the governor's office, and others, they did not find the office to be useful to them. They were doing the good work of old classical auditing. They were not really being responsive to the needs of the legislature.
Utility wasn't there. Yeah, there was. Okay. Yeah.
So the primary stakeholder, the legislature and the governor's office, they were not finding office to be responsive. So that really helped me. I said, well, this is the time I can change auditing focus, auditing culture, change that to evaluation culture.
And they were on board with that. They were just like, yep, phenomenal.
Because they were not pleased with the things before, and so they were willing to give me a chance. They were willing to try new thing, and they liked it. They liked it, and they were all on board with that. The other thing happened was that the mission of the office was to promote confidence and accountability in a state government. Mm-hmm. So with that mission, I have to think about who is my primary audience, who I'm working for.
Right.
And yes, I'm working for the legislature. Legislature writes the paycheck. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, I'm working for a specific bipartisan committee, the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, that gives us the assignments. But actually, if I'm working towards the mission of promoting confidence and accountability in the state government, then I'm actually working for the people of Idaho.
Yeah.
That realization gave me a better way to imagine and design my evaluation work, and it became more meaningful to me, more meaningful to my staff, and mm-hmm. more meaningful to stakeholders.
So the people, I mean, that's a big thing, right? So did that translate into like focusing on groups, like stakeholder groups that were maybe neglected before, or talk more a little bit about that? Right.
So it really helped me to focus on broader audience, stakeholders, all stakeholder groups that were relevant to the project. Focus on the press.
Right.
Are we communicating with the media, communicating with the press, and advocacy groups? Focus on lobbyists, how they see us. So even though we are independent office, we do independent evaluation. We don't politicize anything. We don't take sides.
Right.
And we are all nonpartisan. But still, I have to know know my authorizing environment, know my evaluation environment, right. Understand the politics of that environment, and so I have to have relationship with them. So I started talking to people. Less talking, more listening, whether I agree with them or not. I had to listen to them, and that all helped. That all really helped, and then also trying to design the studies. Trying to design the studies more broadly to see if it is really dealing with real issues. Mm-hmm. Or it is just sweeping those underlying issues under the rug, or right. Are we really dealing with vulnerable populations? Mm-hmm. Are we really dealing with the equity issues? And those kind of things are generally not looked at it when old-fashioned audits are done, and at least one not looked at it in this office before. At least I can speak from this office. And we started focusing on the public at large. Are they benefiting or not? and how to help policymakers and how to help agency that is running that program, how we can help them rather than just find mistakes in their work, and also help policymakers to modify and change policies, change laws. And so collectively, it all helped to accomplish what we do. But this focus on public, I realized that focus in the beginning, and I started implementing that, but I did not talk publicly about it.
Right.
Because I thought that would be too radical thing to say publicly, to tell my bosses that I work for the people of Idaho. They will think I'm running for the office, public elected office or something. That's what politicians tell people.
Right.
And not a staff member says something like that.
Yeah.
So I did not say that, and it was last year, and so it took me from 2002 all the way to last year when I was presenting my budget to the most powerful committee, the joint budget committee here in the legislature. When I was presenting to them, when I was preparing to present that budget request, I thought about it, mentioning that I've worked for, I and the people of my office work for the people of Idaho. But then I went back and thought, no, it's too radical to say, and I don't know what consequences there will be, what kind of wrong toes I'll be stepping on, and so I decided not to say it. But then when I started making my presentation, and it is a public meeting, it just came out. It just came out from my mouth, and I noticed that the committee chair nodded in agreement, and there were other people who either smiled or nodded on the committee, and I felt like my statement was accepted.
Yeah.
Now I say it publicly. I don't worry about how people will see it. Of course, I work for the legislature and the committee that gives us the project, but ultimately we are all working for the people of Idaho.
Yeah. So it really resonated with them, but yeah, that's it. It doesn't sound like such a radical thing, but at the time through those years, your concern was it would come across in a way of like that maybe sort of how maybe jockeying for power,
right, exactly,
in a very political way, right? Because
exactly,
it's kind of like what a politician would say. Okay, can I ask you how do you work? How does your office work with the legislature, with the members, the lawmakers and their staff? How give us a sense of how that works? Like, do they issue directives around what needs to be reviewed, or like, how do you decide what's going to be studied? Obviously, you have a staff, but it's limited, just like everything, and you have to focus on certain things. It's not a small state, not a small budget. So how do you figure out what you're going to be doing?
Okay, so as I said, we work for the legislature. So the assignments that we work on, they come from the legislature. And specifically, we work for an equally bipartisan 8-member joint legislative oversight committee. That committee gives us the assignment. The being equally bipartisan is a big deal. Idaho, as you may know, is an overwhelmingly Republican state, very conservative state, Republican state. All statewide elected officials are all Republicans. 80% of the legislators in the legislature are Republican. So all the committees have proportional membership of the Democrats, and all the committees are chaired by Republicans. But this is the only committee that has 8 members, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats. It has co-chair, a Republican and a Democrat, and those co-chairs alternate chairing the committee meeting. And so they have totally equal power. Also, the 8-member committee is divided equally between Senate and the House. So and the whole idea is to minimize the politics of what assignments are given to us.
Sure.
You can never take the politics out of evaluation,
Right.
but at least to minimize the politics of evaluation requests. So any legislator can make a request. We get a bunch of requests, somewhere between 8 to 15 or 16. I think the maximum request one time we got about 20. But we can only do between 3 to 5 projects per year. Our budget is less than $1 million. And
you're doing them all internally.
All internally, yes.
All internally. You don't bring in external folk.
No, we do. We do go for external consultants, but we still have the ownership of the project.
I see. Okay, so just
and final say on what the project looks like. So having a small staff of 6 evaluators, myself as the director, and an administrative coordinator, we can only do 3 to 5 projects per year, and so committee generally will meet in March. They can meet anytime, but generally in March they will meet to decide what projects they will pick. So all the requests that they got from different legislators, they will consider all those requests and decide which 3 to 5 projects they will assign to us. And that decision and consideration is made at a public meeting. So everybody knows. Everybody knows what the criteria are being used and how the decision is being made. And actually each requester of each evaluation comes in front of this committee and gives about 3 to 5 minute pitch for their request, why they are requesting this study, and based on that, and the committee will ask me, do I have the capacity to do it, what I think about these requests, and whether it is a timely request, whether data exists or not, things like that. They will ask my opinion as well, and then the committee votes on it publicly, and that's the way we get 3 to 5 projects. Once we get, go ahead.
Those 3 to 5, do they end up being more like audit related, kind of like what you were doing before, or more like evaluation related in the sense of improvement and just figuring out if the extent to which programs are working and could be improved and that sort of thing, or what is the thinking behind how those are offered up and then selected?
So they are all policy related, all doing policy evaluation work.
Okay.
And at least now I've been here more than 17 years, at least in last about 8 or 10 years, we haven't seen any just compliance review. We are seeing all evaluations, and increasingly they are getting more heavy on policy evaluation, policy analysis.
So it's what should the policy, to guide what the policy should be with respect to things like public health issues or what the whole range of.
Exactly. So for example, the projects that were given to us this last March, one study is about to look into what role states should play to help small businesses small businesses be able to provide retirement programs for their employees. So that's a policy thing. And we are talking about private sector here. The other study was about look at the impact of state mandates on county revenues. Mm-hmm. The third project we did looking at what role a state can play to help address the Alzheimer's issues.
Oh wow! So a wide range of economic health. Yeah.
And like a year ago, we completed a study about a state institution for people with developmental disabilities, and there was a death of a client in that state institution, and there have been all kinds of negative news in the media for several years, and nobody knew exactly what was going on. At least nobody was talking about it.
Yeah,
and
right.
we made a very bold statement about we were given that project, and not only we talked about what the problems were, we talked about how it could be solved. And the solution is not just to improve the management. The solution lies with the policymakers, the legislature. They need to rethink about how to deal with issues of developmental disabilities. Should it be addressed in a state institution or in the community?
Right.
And major changes are taking place now based on our report there.
Interesting. Yeah. I have a group of students that I teach evaluation to every term that are in our developmental disabilities program, the masters, and we teach them about evaluation. So it'll be interesting. I wonder if that report's available. It might be interesting to kind of for them to see.
All of our reports are on our website. Yeah.
I can link it, and they can get an idea of an example that's very relevant to their work. So that's neat. Okay.
And so we do these evaluations, and we get these assignments, and then the committee leaves us alone. Committee does not tell us what should be the scope. Right. Committee does not tell us what should be the methodology, and does not even review the report before it is released. We have total independence. Total independence. And I am very fortunate. I am grateful for the leadership here. I'm grateful to my committee for leaving us alone to do our work independently. And but because we want to be responsive to their information needs, we work for them. We want to be responsive. So I will ask my committee to tell us when we design the scope of this study. Then we will share the draft of the scope and say, please provide us input. Are we on the right track, or we are missing something here? But it's still, we have the final say. What should be the scope?
Okay.
Then if we feel like there are some legislators and certain people in the governor's office, they are experts on the topic that we are evaluating, we go and talk to them. We ask for their input. We ask people to help us with survey design, or if we need their help, or help us identify some certain issues that we are not able to identify ourselves. So, and then when the report is done, then we ask the agency that we are evaluating, or whoever is relevant party, we ask them to do a technical review of our report draft to make sure we have not made a mistake. So if somebody has a budget of $10 million and we said their budget is only $1 million, it's a factual mistake there. And we ask them to help us correct all the information in the report. And then we give them the final draft, the agency and the governor. We give the final draft and ask them to give us their formal written response. So each of our evaluation at the end of the report, you will see the response from the agency that we evaluated, or the agency that was most relevant to the study, because sometimes there is no agency.
The action that was taken, or just if they agree with the findings, or both? Well, is it the action that they take based on the report, or their agreement, or what they think about the findings?
All of the above. So because they may not have been able to take the action yet because the report is not released yet. We are just finalizing the report. So sometimes they do know, and they are able to take some actions during the evaluation process, but they have plans. Sometimes they disagree. Sometimes they disagree with our findings and conclusions, but most of the time they do agree. Sometimes we may have, they agree with our work, they agree with our recommendations, but they feel like there was one important issue that we did not address. So they bring that to the forefront. And as a result of the response, both the governor's response as well as the agency response, there is a good, healthy, constructive policy discourse. People can talk about it all together.
Right.
And it is not that we came and we evaluated an agency and then we left.
Right.
Everybody is involved there. So then we include those formal responses in the report, and then we make that report release at a public meeting of that Joint Legislative Oversight Committee. The report is released, and until this time, the report was confidential to the kept confidential. It was not released to the public in any way. Only key relevant people like the governor's office had seen the report draft, and the agency had seen the draft. And actually, even the people who have requested the study and the members of the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, well, they had seen the report as a draft because we want them to be ready to answer questions posed by the press when the report is released. But the people who requested this study, they don't get to see the report until the report is publicly released.
Okay.
The idea is so nobody will politicize anything.
Okay.
That's the idea.
How do you get the maximum engagement with those reports? Like making sure that people read the report, that they actually, like, what do you do with your reports? That's been a big kind of focus in evaluation last 10, 20 years. Well, really maybe 10 years, is like changing the style, the format, the way in which reports are developed, creating shorter summaries, infographic laden summaries or base summaries, that kind of stuff. Like what do you all do to kind of increase the likelihood that the people that should read the report will read it?
So we have done several things, and we have shortened the report length. We have designed shorter executive summaries of the report. Technical stuff we put more in the appendix rather than in the main body. But probably the most important thing we have done is we have created a one-pager. So the report does have an executive summary. So report could be 40, 50, or 100 page, but the executive summary could be 4 to 6 pages there, and they are all together. They are all together. But we have also a product, we call it one-pager. And one-pager is not attached to the report, is separate. So if you go on our website, so if you look at any report, you will click on that report link, that you will first see the one-pager, and then you can also click and see the whole report. And it is the one-pager that has been the most popular thing. People really like it, and so now and we made the reports colored in last few years. So
the entire report, or just the one pager?
The entire report is colored. The cost of publication has gone up highly, and so we do not publish reports anymore. The hard copies. The reports are all of the reports are available online, but one pager, we print a lot of one pagers, and those one pagers are distributed widely. So I'll show it to you. So some one pagers. So if you can see, that's the one pager.
Right.
And one pager means one pager, not front and back. There's nothing in the back. Actually, when we were thinking about the one pager,
we can make it 2 pages, but call it one pager.
A senior staff said, "Oh, that is very hard to do that." And could it be front and back? And I said, that's called 2-pager. That's not 1-pager. So there's another one. And sometimes the big numbers of some infographics is there and tables, but also we have also charts in there. We can link this in the show notes. Good idea. Yeah. So we have, and the idea of this one pager is not the summary of the executive summary. This one pager is the top sentence should basically tell, if you have only 30 seconds to 10 seconds to tell somebody what is the main message of the report, the top sentence should tell that. Right. then key thing, key findings and recommendations.
It's not easy. It's not easy creating those, is it?
That takes the most time.
Yeah, percentage, like in terms of the amount of space that it occupies,
Right.
it's the most dense in terms of time. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very difficult to do that. And this, in addition to one pager, there is in the report we have, if you turn the front page cover, and so this is the report, and if you open it, then you will see a letter. In auditing world, we call it transmittal letter, a letter from the director telling the authorizing body, you asked us to do this evaluation, we completed it. But here I also talk about some policy implication or something that is not being said clearly, but must be said. And those transmittal letters are sometimes used by the press to get a sentence or two from there to put it in their story.
Okay. If somebody's starting out an evaluation and they're interested in going into the kind of work that you're doing, what's the best way to kind of go about that? What are some recommendations, suggestions you might have?
Okay, could you explain that question? Somebody is starting to want to work in this field? Or,
yeah, someone who maybe is getting training in evaluation, someone who's, just coming out of maybe an evaluation program, maybe they have some experience, but they want to go specifically into your kind of work, the kind of thing that you're doing. What is the way it kind of happened initially, kind of accidentally, but then more deliberately as you moved in your career? But what is the way that that they might do that? Some suggestions you might have, or just general kind of suggestions.
So the kind of jobs you will be looking for is about 40 states have an office like ours. They may be doing more auditing, maybe doing more compliance reviews, and less evaluation, and generally that's the case. But about 40 of the 50 states have some kind of legislative office that does performance auditing or evaluation. Also, this kind of work is done within the within the state legislative branches as a research analyst or budget analyst. You can also look this kind of jobs in the governor's office, working in the governor's budget office or governor's policy office. General Accountability Office, U.S. General Accountability Office, GAO, they have these kind of positions. Big county and cities have these kind of offices. Yeah, those are the places you can find something, the kind of work that we do.
Okay, great. So some good suggestions there. So all sorts of government job sites, and state, local, federal. Okay, what's the main difference you'd say between what you do and what your typical external evaluator does? And I think you kind of laid it out pretty well, but anything else you want to add to it, maybe that would help with that?
So I think the big difference is the credibility. We bring the credibility to the work that is being assigned to us. Mm-hmm. So we are an established office. We understand our evaluation environment. We understand our authorizing environment. We understand all the key players. We have built relationships with those key players and have established trust. So we have a certain level of credibility in this environment that people know what to expect from the Office of Performance Evaluation, what to expect from Rakesh Mohan. And they know there won't be any surprises. The press knows, the public knows. That they all know that we are independent. We fight for our independence. We stay always independent. We do not get involved with politics. We don't take sides. We say what needs to be said. And that sometimes is not easily available when you have external evaluator, whether that external evaluator is a private consultant or some other body, because you don't know. It takes time to build relationships. It takes time to develop trust.
Right. the main difference. That's an important difference, a key difference. I appreciate you pointing that out. What's an example of a mistake that you made on one of your projects? And how did you deal with it? Maybe briefly. You have the chapter in the evaluation failures book, the one that Kylie I think edited, right?
Right.
Yeah. Could you kind of briefly summarize? I don't want to keep you too long here today, but maybe give us a sense of yeah.
So I think the big thing I learned, big mistake, is that I have made assumptions about the stakeholders, about the sponsors of evaluations, how to interact with them. The assumptions are, and it's a tricky balance. How much to simplify the information that we are sharing with them?
Yeah.
How much they are busy folks. How many times do I need to repeat to them? How many times do we need to? Because if you keep repeating it, then it becomes nagging and bugging. If you keep simplifying things, then you are patronizing them. So
right.
it's a tricky balance. And I made assumptions that I work for the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, so the members know who we are and what we do. So I don't have to explain everything all the time to them. I made assumptions that I work for the legislature, so they know who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And they all are on board with that. And that was the mistake. I need to regularly communicate with them. I need to make sure, and communication is not just telling them something, listening to them, what they are not getting, what they are looking for. Right. So that was I think the biggest mistake I have made over the years. And so this communication and reflection on the experiences that we have had.
And that sort of guided what you did going forward when you kind of realized that, and that's affected how you exactly. Work going forward. Got it. Okay, great. So we can all be biased, especially with respect to our work. How do you get honest input from others, from colleagues and others on your thought process, on your work? How do you do that? How do you elicit that?
Really good question, and we do multiple things. One is that everybody who works on the project sign an independent statement where they say they have no conflicts of interest.
Mm-hmm, right.
So, and if they have biases, they need to disclose them. If they are environmentalists and it is a project about environmental issues, they need to say that. And then they have to say that whether this assignment, whether their biases or their affiliations or their conflicts will affect the performance of their work on the project. And then I need to determine as the director whether they should be on that team or not. That's one way to do it. The other thing we have in-house a lot of brainstorming sessions where we challenge each other. And when we challenge each other's thought process, that means the environment is safe. Anybody can challenge, from intern to me as the director. An intern who just started today can challenge me. And that challenge is welcome.
So well, let me ask you that organizations might say that, but sometimes it's hard to actually do it. How do you actually do that? Like, is it through showing, like actually, just through showing the new people and leading by examples, or like actually doing it and taking criticism and so forth? And like, how do you actually do that versus that just being said,
So sometimes we know each other's biases or each other's conflicts because they have talked about it in social gathering or somehow. Right. We know that, and good example here is we are working on this Alzheimer's project, and it's not public, it's not released yet. And one team member is really expert on the topic. And we really grill that person during those brainstorming sessions. Anytime that person will say, we know that. I will say, who are we? They all know, the person will say, they think this is the best practice. Who are they?
Uh-huh.
How many people are there? And how do they know? How do you know? So we started questioning that, and that helps. Also, we have our projects have all of our projects have a consultant also assigned to the project, and the consultant does the quality control. We do internal quality control on our work from beginning to the end, and we have external quality control that we do as well. Our work papers become public after the report is released, unless there is some confidential information that should be kept confidential. So we know our biases will show so we have to be extra careful. We communicate with the press, and press will challenge us if and we present our reports to the legislature and agencies. They will catch if we have biases. They will question us. Same thing during the technical review that we do. Ask the agencies to provide us a technical review. During that time, our biases will show. So there are many ways, but I think very few. Our counterpart in other state legislature, I don't think so. Anybody does this, having a consultant do the external quality control. That's what we do, and that has been the most beneficial thing for us.
That's really interesting. That's been something that's been very very helpful. All right, what's a favorite evaluation resource or resources that you have that you would like to share? Is there something that you like? It could be a website or a blog or a book. I don't know. Is there something that you have that you can suggest?
Yeah, I think, and my suggestions are, if I'm excluding something, that doesn't mean those are not great resources. But my suggestions are based on evaluation practice. If you are doing practical evaluation, utilization focused evaluation, responsive evaluation, then what are the best sources? So I think the Australian website, the Better Evaluation, has lots of resources.
That's come up before.
In terms of website, Stephanie Evergreen's website, Sheila Robinson's website, they talk about how to make presentations, how to write reports, how to do data visualization. Those are really good website. And I think Government Accountability Office, GAO, their website, EERS, Eastern Evaluation Research Society, has some good stuff on their website. Pew Research has some good, resources.
Okay.
So there are different resources that are helpful there. And with respect to articles and books and authors, I find, but again, evaluation practice, I find the work done by Eleanor Chelimsky, her articles by her, chapters by her are just great. Joe Holley, George Grubb, the work they have done is guides me every day in doing the work that we do here in Idaho.
Nice.
Of course, great. The traditional references like Michael Patton and all, those are always good and they are very much detailed. But when it comes to doing everyday practical evaluation and how to deal with the politics of evaluation, the work done by Eleanor Chelimsky, Holley, and George Grubb, that is really helpful to us.
Okay, great. We'll provide links to that. Do you have a favorite book that you recommend or give as a gift, and why might that be? Is there? I know that was a question that wanted to see if you had a suggestion beyond what you've just mentioned. You kind of gave.
So I think now I have a favorite book, and that book will be The Evaluation Failures. and because not because it has a chapter by me, it is favorite because new evaluators can learn from other evaluators. I think 21 chapters in the book from the mistakes they have made and what we can learn. So I think that's why it is good. But generally in my personal reading, what I do is I haven't read much in the last few years, but if I want to read something, I like to read biographies because biographies of people who I admire most. And that helps me to deal with my challenges, whether they're personal or professional challenges. And name some of the people I admire and their biographies have helped me. Is Thomas Merton, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. Their biographies have helped me to really find out how to deal with these things. And these authors are all gone, but these personalities are all gone. Their work was done a long time ago, but their work is as relevant today and even more relevant today than it was during the time that they talked about their issues.
Yeah, definitely. So you see how they dealt with their struggles, the process in depth, and learning from that has been very helpful for you.
Exactly.
How should people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to see what you're doing, to connect with you on social, whatever it might be?
So the best way is to, if they really want to contact me, my email, it is rmohan@ope.idaho.gov.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, and that is Rakesh Mohan Eval on Twitter. And then my office website, that is legislature.idaho.gov/OPE. OPE stands for Office of Performance Evaluations. And I'm also on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, I'm not active at all there, but I'm there.
Okay.
But Twitter, email, and Office website. And if you go on Office website, you can also go each staff member's bio, my bio, and there you can find my phone number too. So they can even call me.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time here. And I think that there's some real helpful pieces here and good discussion. So thanks a lot. And we'll be in touch soon.
Well, James, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my office and the work that I do for the Idaho. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Take care. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.